Hello everyone, it's Thursday and I've got my voice back. So anyone who was chatting with me yesterday, I did a short row question and answer session yesterday and I wasn't really sure if I was going to be up for it because I had been sick for the last several days and very swollen gland in my throat and my voice really wasn't that strong. So yesterday I was kind of croaked my way through the question and answer session, but it was an awful lot of fun because I haven't done a Zoom for kind of at the tail end of a masterclass before, and it was a lovely way to wrap the whole thing up. So if you were in the short row masterclass and you had questions, people were able to jump in. Now, if you haven't joined the masterclass and you're kind of curious, it's all live at this point now, and the actual Zoom session was recorded and it was popped in at the very bottom of the masterclass. So you can actually access all of that now if you want to see it at any point. And there was a lot of people really enjoyed it and said that they got tons and tons of information out of the masterclass. So if you had been kind of humming and hawing and you weren't sure, I would very strongly suggest jumping in and taking a look at it because there's loads and loads of information in there. And I think having questions really helps me because it prompts me to remember particular items or things I wanted to talk about that I had completely forgotten about. So yeah, jump in and join the short row masterclass if you are curious about short rows. How is everyone out there today? How's your week been? Your Thursday? Is everyone having fun with their knitting at the moment? I finished off a big project yesterday. It turned out really nicely, but I had some difficulties along the way because I was navigating yarn usage, and in particular I was trying to make it so that I used as much of the yarn as possible but still leaving enough of a factor of safety in that people weren't going to run out. So it meant that I was redesigning, ripping, reknitting, redesigning, reknitting, and it was reaching the point where it was getting quite stressful. But yesterday I finished it, the yarn amount was correct, and I love the finished product. So I have a huge sense of both relief and excitement because it's down there in the floor behind me and it's done, and I'll get to share it with you sometime soon. Just reading through some of the comments there. Deirdre, my short row book is your go-to Bible. Excellent. Yeah, if you like absorbing your information in written format, the book is really useful because you've got the photo tutorials and you've suggestions for different places. Each of them is useful. You're knitting on your Lhasa. Yeah, the last clue of the Lhasa came out last week and people are making fantastic progress as they work through. Which is really, really good. That it's I think that once people had done the first side, gotten a bunch of techniques that worked well for them in terms of ways of speeding up the knitting or preventing or kind of checking that they hadn't dropped a yarn over, then it become a lot more comfortable and a lot more enjoyable. And the body, of course, has sections where it's garter stitch, which is very nice because it's relaxing in between. You're picking up your laminaris again and you're loving it. Oh, very good. Yes, laminaris is a fun one because there's unusual garter stripes and then you've got those floating cables across the front, which I love. Big fan of those. Someone was asking me what my sweater is today. This one is a very old pattern. I think it's like in my first handful of patterns. It's Akoya, Akoya. This one is in felted tweed, which I actually think is quite similar and would have been it would have kind of been the feel I was going for with Nua Sport. So that kind of this is meant to be a DK, it is not a DK weight, it is a sports weight, and the original felted tweed, and it's bottom up. And the reason this one is in my wardrobe and not in the samples is because the cables down here, the way the cables turned in the lace for the bottom of the section, this was the first sample and I didn't like the way they came in the end, so it got redesigned and then reknit into the final sample. So this is the one that I get to keep and sits in my wardrobe, but it's lightweight, so I find it's a good in-between seasons one here. Of course, June in Ireland being in between seasons because it has barely topped over 20 degrees Celsius here this year. It's been very, very, very cold. But let me have a look through here. Yes, I think I've answered all your questions, but if there's something else that you want to let me know that you're working on, or have any other questions as we're going through, just give me a shout. Something else I wanted to talk a small bit about, I was kind of posting up a little about social media in general and community and that whole end of things, because social media is one of those double-edged sword things that people very often end up taking breaks, pulling back and getting overwhelmed with it. But the way I like to approach social media, and the way, like all of us actually in stolen stitches, not social stitches, like to approach it, is thinking of it as a way of connecting with all of you, because a lot of people here, particularly like for instance over the last couple of weeks, who've been coming on tours and retreats to Ireland, I meet people in person for the first time. Others I was re-meeting because I hadn't seen them before. And social media is a really nice way of extending that into the more virtual world, because I get to connect with you. Like each of the different platforms is a little bit different. Instagram's a bit chattier, a bit more fun. We're kind of working a little bit and more and in a different direction with the Facebook group, and that it has become very much sharing a lot of projects and things like that. Knit Hub I really like because it's a fantastic place to give pattern support, because all of the questions come straight into me and they're all there, very easy to organize for people to be able to see if they come in with a question on a particular pattern. And everything's there to connect with you and to support you and to remind you that you're not alone, that we are not alone out there. Even if you feel physically alone, social media actually, when used correctly, can actually give you a sense of community and interaction, that you know that you're not sitting there by yourself, that if you're running into a problem, like I'm talking about knitting, obviously it applies to everything, but if you've got a knitting problem, you dropped a stitch and you're feeling really stressed in the middle of the night, you can pop it up there and there's going to be someone that'll be there to support you. So it's definitely got its plus points, but you just need to make sure that you find the spaces that work best for you, I think, on social media. We must have your heat here in Newfoundland. It's been high 20s, which is record breaking in June. Yeah, we've got this summer, I don't know what's going on. Every now and again it looks like it's going to get warmer, like yes, we've got the summer, and then 2 days and it drops straight back down again. I'm not minding it. It's once it's not wet, it's okay. You get kind of used to it. And I'm going away on holidays in August, hopefully, so I'll get a little bit of heat. I won't feel too deprived this year. So now is where I want to tell you a little bit about what we've been putting on the website. We've got, again, I suppose it's on the theme of slightly older patterns and things that I knit several years ago and really love and wanted to kind of revisit and give them a new lease of life. And one of those is back behind me here, the Adrift, you can see it, the Adrift cardigan. And that was one of the very first cardigans I ever knit, and it was really, really popular, still is. And this one was knit in Malbrigo lace, so very, very, if you've ever used it, it's a single ply, very, very lightweight, kind of a felted lace, but it had its problems because the yarn, it was so fine, and because it was single ply, it almost stuck to each other, and so it was quite frustrating experience knitting with it or winding it and things like that. Very breakable, and also not very durable in the finished product. Feels very soft, but it wasn't ideal. So I was looking around for an alternative to this, to get something that was that soft and kind of a lightweight, airy feel, but without the real, I suppose, brittleness, if you like. And what we ended up putting up, and I put some kits on the website, was the Manos del Uruguay Fino, because this is the actual construction of the yarn is the very same as Malbrigo. It's like it's singles, but it's a slightly heavier singles. It's closer to, it's a fingering weight as opposed to a lace weight. But this was knit very, very loosely and blocked very widely. But this one knit up and still blocked, but not as aggressively, gives you a very nice lightweight fabric, and you can get the gauge for it. Here we go. This is the Admiral color. That's knit up in the Fino. You can see it gets, and this was not very heavily blocked. I think this one was just steam blocked. So if you kind of hold it here, you get a feel for the drape for it, which actually works really, really nicely for the adrift pattern. If you did the quilted feather knit along, you might have actually used this yarn as well. Hang on, we got, someone's asking, could I use fingering and DK weight yarns in a shawl? You could, but the fingering weight yarn is going to, if you put them in together, you're going to have a difference in gauge. So one of it's going to be very loose and the other may be quite tight. Elsa Louise, you're asking, does this pill? Well, the original one does pill. A Fino, obviously a little bit because it's merino, but because the actual yarn itself is, it's singles, but it's a felted singles, which gives it a little bit more durability. And I find that it actually behaves itself pretty well. It may need a little bit of care, but not excessively so, and it's very light. So it does, I think this is a good match for the adrift project. And it comes in huge range of colors, because we got, these are the ones, I don't know if I put them in last week. I may have the 3 colors that we got. It was Topsy Turvy, Filigree, and Flame. They're the 3 new colors for the brighter ones. And some of the original ones we would have had in is, this is Inkwell, which is a really pretty color. And this one is Watered Silk. There's 2 more, and we've got a few, these are lovely delicate ones for, so porcelain here, again, it's kind of cream with slight bits of beige running through. And I should really know these colors off. Silver Tea Set. And this purple, or lilac I should say, this is Corsage over here. So depending on whether you go for something subtle or a brighter color, there's kind of a pretty good range. But the yardage is phenomenal on it. So in the kits for the smaller sizes, we've put in enough to make a 3/4 length sleeve. So you can see this has got a short sleeve option, which is the one shown here. And there's also a 3/4 length sleeve option. And the kits will have enough to be able to knit to 3/4 length sleeve option. So if you think you're going to want just to keep the sleeves short, then you can drop down a kit size and you can get, you know, instead of the 3 skeins, you could get one with 2 skeins or something like that, and mix and match in, so to speak. But it's a particularly good one for the summer because it's straightforward, it's stockinette stitch, it's top down. Turn this around. It's raglan, so you start up here, you've just got the neck knit straight. Oh, she's moved out too far. The neck is knit straight. There's a tiny bit of short rows to lift this up here. Then you have just raglan increases down here and here, and the whole time at the front of it it's knit all the way across here. So it's just super wide in the front here and the same here. So if it's left open, it's going to create kind of a waterfall cascade front. But if you've got a shawl pin, it also works very well to just wear it, let me turn this in here, wear it pinned in up like this, but just with a shawl pin put in here if you've got a lightweight shawl pin. And we realized in the office that when I wear this style, I always leave it open with the waterfall effect. But Laura, when she put it on, automatically went to wear it across like this. So it's, yeah, everyone to their own personal way of wearing these things. But yeah, I've always liked flowing, more waterfally front of cardigans. I mean, some of you may have in fact knit this before, because it is an older pattern of mine. But what you're looking for is, you want a little bit of drape, and when you hold it up to kind of have a bit of a floppy fabric there. And you can even do it, particularly with the front, because it can afford to get a bit longer, that you could do it so the back wasn't blocked very aggressively, and you could in fact block the front a lot wider so that it goes longer and it gets more drape, but actually work really well, so that you can kind of treat the front of it almost like a shawl, but just stretch it out, make it a bit bigger than the gauge, and it will have a lovely flow in the front. You don't need that for the back. The back of it, you just want to fit the shoulders and fit the body. So you can basically create almost 2 different fabrics for the back and the front just with blocking. Something else I want to share with you. The Stolen Stitches Nua worsted in Hatter's Teal Party. This is back in stock. Yes, Elsa Louise, I can see you've been waiting for it. This arrived in and it is back in stock because we've had, I think it's been about 9 months, because the distributor ended up with an error in the order when things got remilled, and so this was not milled at the start of last year. So it has been out since about last October, I'm going to say October, November. So if you've been waiting for this color in worsted weight, it is now there for you. And the other thing that we've got is these mother of pearl buttons. We've had them before for the Lhasa in the 22mm size, and we've just gotten slightly smaller. These are 20mm, and there's two of them. This is a kind of a thinner, lighter color one. This one is slightly thicker. You can see there's a difference in the thickness, and it's a slightly darker color to it. So these are both up on the website now as well. And I should probably have brought it up, but yesterday we got a delivery of buttons. There was like an enormous box of buttons. We were thinking about going on to the website and in fact doing a matchup. So you know the way on the Lhasa cardigan, I've got an add-on for buttons. So the buttons that I used, we've added on. We're going to slowly start working through some of the other patterns and pick out specific buttons that we think would go with them, that are the right size and that feel like they might be the right weight, and just pop them into the pattern or the yarn kit pages to have them as add-ons, because I think that should make it a little bit easier to see what's going to work well with different patterns. There's a couple of questions there. Elsa Louise, do you make a Dakite or a Ravi? You know what? We need to put up a poll here, everyone. Elsa Louise wants to know, should she knit Dakite or Ravi? And the answer to that is probably how much easy knitting versus knitting you want to think about do you want? Because Ravi requires, at least initially, a little bit of thought, because there's a small bit of lace and there's short rows as you go across. Now, it's the same thing repeating around, so once you've done a few, it'll kind of fly through. But Dakite is very straightforward. It is top down, it's a worsted weight knit, so it's a little bit faster. So I'd say, what kind of knitting do you feel like doing right now? And use that as your guide. So you're going away, if you're in holidays and you don't want to think about it, Dakite definitely. If you want something that's a tiny bit thinkier, then perhaps Ravi. So I didn't really answer you, but I perhaps gave you a little bit of guidance as to how to think about it. Deirdre, when will I have the Coop Knit Socks Margala kits in the bright blue back in stock? The Laminara color, which is one of the blues, the distributor is out of stock of it at the moment. So I am not sure if or when they're going to have that back in stock in the next while. I'll send them on a message, but I'm not sure when it's going to actually be back in stock, but we will check in for you. College Notebook, who is Nadia, said, Elsa Louise, we'll pop it into stories for you as a poll, and we will let everyone decide whether you should knit Dakite or Ravi. Good question. And we can come back next week to our live and we can answer the question. We can tell you which she's decided to go knit. And I can even bring both of them up so that you can, if anyone does not know what each of those patterns looks like, we can also pop those up in stories so that you can see the photographs of them and you can see which ones she's talking about. So I think that is most of my bits I want to talk with you about this week. As you can see, I'm feeling a lot more energetic because my teaching is over, my illness is over, and I've got a month of lots and lots of video editing and putting classes up. That's fun. I enjoy doing that. But it just feels like one project rather than being spread in a million different areas. So I will bid you adieu, and which would you wear more often, Elsa Louise? What's the kind of temperature like where you are? So that's because the Ravi is going to be, it's in sports weight, so it's a little bit lighter weight. If the weather gets colder, then the Dakite's going to be a much cozier one. I view that as more of a winter cardigan because it's heavier. The front crossover in the front makes it very warm. So the temperature in those would vary quite a bit, whereas Ravi feels a little bit more transitional. Sports weight, it's up and down. How do you feel? Like with your wardrobe, what kind of weights do you get the most use out of? Because for me, it's colder here and I feel the cold, so I tend to go for something like a Dacite because I find it a lot warmer. Whereas the in-between stuff I get less use out of because I'm more likely to just maybe put a sweatshirt on or something if I'm in and out. Like right here it's very warm, so I'll wear long sleeve t-shirt or a short sleeve t-shirt, and then I might wear just like a hoodie or something on my way out. Whereas in winters, when I really end up using, because our winters here are quite long, so from September to March, April, I'm wearing the heavier weight ones. Yeah, Joan, we will for sure put up the two pictures up in the stories. So, all right, I'm going to go for sure now, and I'll talk to you all next week. Bye.